Shalom, world. It's William Henry Rylands again. I don't know. I keep deleting these videos. I explained a little bit why in the other one, and again, I woke up in the middle of the night, frustrated for some reason, or having a bad dream, and deleted my video. So now I have to make it again. It was a 2-hour video. It would be nice if we can recover some of these things so I don't have to repeat myself, because every time I do, I feel like I'm losing some information, even as I'm living down here in the sick world, and as we continue to consume our oxygen and replace it with carbon monoxide, I'm also becoming sick with them. It's not just a sickness as like death. Death is just the end of the sickness. The sickness is a brain disease. We're becoming more and more confused, just as carbon monoxide makes people confused before they eventually die. I mean, it's all consistent with carbon monoxide poisoning, which is what I believe we have. It's not really a virus, like chicken pox or something, but unless we describe viruses as really just pollution, that's what they are, I guess. So in a way, yeah, the coronavirus, I believe, is oxygen deficiency and carbon monoxide poisoning. Okay. I titled this video 3 perpetual motion devices, which I'm getting into right now. But we have to understand why we need these things immediately and how things work for us to really push for this. All right, let's begin with I don't want to give you all like so much bad news where you turn the show off, turn the video off all at once, So let's get into showing us some perpetual motion devices, and just be aware that this video and even my language has been degenerating my own, my mind. So just bear with me. Here we have Exhibit A. This is an electro piston drive engine motor, right? Inside of here we have a magnet. The outside, this is a cylinder. On both ends of our cylinder we have an electromagnet. Electromagnets, they either push or pull, as we have let me look here through my folders to show you. I mean, we know this. Here we go. Here's our little electromagnet illustration. If we have a coil here, plus and minus, we can cause this to pull. Even with the AA battery, you can lift. I've seen like between 50 and 100 pounds just with the AA battery and a coil making an electromagnet. So, I mean, that's pretty powerful for the size of the energy that we're using. So, if we can pull, we can also push. One end of this pulls and the other end pushes. These are the electromagnets we really designed today. They pull on both ends. So that means over here it's going to push. Really, this is a magnet. If we close this end would pull and this would push, just like our magnet here. And if we break this apart, it's not going to want to go back together the same way because it's pushing. We're pushing apart here, right? Because the waves are coming together and pushing against each other. That's why our magnets don't want to go back together the same way they come apart. Anyway, the idea was, right, here's our obelisk with our coils to create an iron rod electromagnet. And by the way, I believe we can use different materials and even make different types of magnets with different materials, because everything has atoms, and atoms are really electrons, and electrons are really, magnets, and the nucleus is really the expression of the magnets spinning, the electrons going around the nucleus. It's creating, waves of energy, a plus and minus, just as a magnet has a plus and a minus, a north and a south, a male and a female, a proton and a neutron. As it's spinning, we're making waves. So when we're looking at an atom, we're looking really at the top of the wave. So we're seeing the protons and neutrons, but really that's just representing the top of our DNA strand, right? So hydrogen, right, only has two magnets, and then it has two protons and two neutrons. So really, we're looking at DNA strands, is what I'm saying. If we look at a wave from the side, it looks like this. But if we look at it straight forward, we're seeing this, and this is our proton, neutron, proton, neutron, proton, neutron, proton, neutron. And why would we see one extra neutron sometimes? I mean, maybe we're looking at the crest of the wave. So it looks like we're seeing another one, but it's just alternating back and forth, right? I mean, doesn't that make sense? Anyway, so if everything is made from atoms, and atoms are magnetic, and that would make sense why they come together in certain shapes. They fit together like puzzle pieces, right? Then everything that exists are metals, which come from rocks, which we melt down and reorder the magnets inside of the material. So really everything has the potential to be magnetic. It's just a matter of tuning our magnet to the proper patterns inside of it, or frequency, or vibration, or whatever, however you want to describe, our magnetic pattern to attract or push different types of materials. Okay, well, let's set that aside for now, and let's pretend this is made from our iron electromagnets, right, on either end, and they either push or pull, correct? All right, so our piston is a magnet inside of our cylinder. Our magnet is positive and negative. So on either end of this, we can start with positive. We can say positive represents, well, here, working with this, right? Positive. So we have positive. So that will push our positive. Positive pushes this way, and the negative positive will attract. So we move our piston to one side. Now we just switch our charge, negative, negative. And it'll go the other way. And switch back and forth. And not only, am I talking about just having electromagnets on the end, but we can have them at different places along our cylinder. We can make the cylinder as long as you want. So they just activate as it goes across, not only by pushing as it goes, but also pulling from the other side. It's all about tuning. And we can have this thing move as fast as you want it to. Even we can cause the magnet to somewhat hover inside. So there's nothing is touching. There's no friction. So that equals zero heat. And then, then we can go really high speeds. Even, if we create a vacuum in here, then there's no, really particles other than the ones, our magnetic field. Actually, our magnetic field can. Anyway, let's set that aside. Let's just start with our foundation here. Okay. So we'll design this. And since we're moving a magnet, and magnets have magnetic fields, visible fields, like, there's a field of energy here, right here, all around, in the shape of our magnet, right? And that's what causes the vibration inside of copper or gold. We use those mostly for conduit, but we can use other things as well, like water and the mineral water, or inside of a fluorescent light bulb, the gas also transfers energy. So really, there's different ways of conducting the energy or collecting the vibration. It's being collected in little particles that we can't see around us, but we collect it in wire. We can feel the vibration going through. So anyway, what I'm saying is we can coil wire around our device here, and as the magnet's going back and forth, we're producing energy at the same time to power the device. So we can power the device with its own energy, and not just coil it around, but we can also do a coil within like this. Right? And inside of here, we have copper coiled inside. So we're also That's sex right there. We're making some energy, right? And so we have without and within. So we're collecting double 2K, double the amount of energy that we're using to push the magnet, right? So whatever extra energy we have, we can either store it up in cells or we can use it for something else. So that's just one idea. Let me show you this one. This was another concept here. To have our crankshafts with magnets on them, and then our push rod or our rods with magnets on the rod. So on the rod is minus and positive a magnet, right? On a rod. A rod. Where's my rod again? Where'd it go? Don't go anywhere. Right here somewhere. So this is in the center rod, and this goes back and forth as these guys turn. And as these turn, the magnet flips, right? So right now it's positive, but as it flips over, then it'll be, it's negative here and it flips over, it'll be positive, right? So that interacts with our magnet here. If it's right now negative, it's trying to push this way. And as it's the opposite on this end, it's trying to pull. So as this flips over, then this will push the rod back this way, and it'll be attracted to this side. And we're not just going to stop with 2. We want to complete our circle. So I designed this one with 4. Right, 4 cranks and 4 rods to pick up the gaps in between magnetic fields. Here is a better design, a better drawing. Our push rod and our crank. These are spinning. These are pushing. You have one here, down here, here. Okay, and then since we're turning magnets again, we're creating magnetic fields, so we can also collect that with copper or gold. It's all about the materials we use. In fact, anything that spins can create energy. Even if I'm riding my bike, I can make my rims from copper and the forks from magnets, and then collect the vibration and use it to power an electric motor in my bike. And I could, at the very least, extend my range of my electric motor because I'll be charging as I'm driving. I'll be charging as I'm using energy from the battery. So I'm just saying, the bike has 2 wheels. I can collect the energy from 2 wheels that the electric motor is pushing off of 1 wheel. So aren't I also doubling my energy? At the very least, I'm extending everything, all right? And none of this is the arc. We haven't even gotten to the arc yet. And the description then in scriptures. And before you run away, because I said scriptures, because I know a lot of scientists, a lot of people, run away because they think I'm about to talk about religion. Well, it's not religion. Actually, the scriptures is just history. It's a code, which came really from Egypt. So really, we're studying ancient aliens, if that's what you want to call it. Because even if the Hebrews existed before Egypt, really everything came into being, I believe, at the same time. But even if we say that the Hebrews language was earlier, I'm saying that maybe they had spoken language, but I don't believe they knew how to read and write. They were shepherds, right? They were growing crops and that types of thing. It was more Egypt where we had the records, the technologies, and we were building. We had the pyramids and things like this. You didn't see any shepherds building pyramids, right? So the recording from Moses, really, because Moses was raised by the Egyptians. Remember, his basket floated down the sea of reeds, which really I believe represents reading, and now we can see, understand because we read. So he was reading and watching and observing, or maybe they were teaching him how to read, so now he can see. And the basket could represent Noah's Ark, which is really the understanding that will allow us to survive from the flood of Noah, of no understanding. So really, the flood is the confusion. The flood is the lies. And a lot of the confusion, I believe, like I began to say, is we're breathing it and eating it. I mean, I know that our food is intentionally poisoned to a degree, and I realize that maybe the elite were doing this because they think that, there's overpopulation, which maybe there is, not so much as in there's not enough room on earth for people, but there's not enough inhabitable land and lands to produce enough food and good food. We're pushing our crops to grow faster and faster, and then they're not complete. That's pre-harvested crops equal incomplete information. So we're eating incomplete information. It's like eating an incomplete sentence or a paragraph that's not finished when our food is not finished growing because we pre-harvest it like they do with the wheat, which is why we're gluten intolerant. Our bodies can't understand the information because it's not complete. And it's not only that, but they spray it with the poison carcinogen glyphosate to kill it early so that way they can harvest it early. So incomplete plus sprayed with poison plus, they make things now that are GMO, which is they've modified the DNA of the plants. And, then it's not as cohesive with our cells. Our cells don't understand the rearranged information. It's like changing around the letters in our words. So, we've created our own Babel. We're eating it literally. And not to mention, of course, the carbon monoxide, which is, we know, a poison. It's a proven poison. And we're inside this garage of the earth. And it's filling up with, where does oxygen come from, children? Doesn't it come, it's produced by the trees, right? The earth only produces so much oxygen because we only have so many trees. And we're burning more and more of that oxygen. Petrol machines, we know that they burn oxygen. And a petroleum machine, according to my research, burns in one average car in one average year burns 17,000 trees worth of oxygen. And it takes only 8 trees to produce enough oxygen for one man for a year. So even if we're not talking about, like, can the earth provide for all our cars, we're still consuming the lives of 2,000 people a year per car. So we're literally driving and killing ourselves. Okay. It's their own problem. So people are driving around pointing fingers at everyone else for everything while they're driving their cars. We're all to blame. So it's all of our problems to fix it up. And it's all of our problems to make sacrifices. Sacrifice is not driving. Okay. And I'm going to show you how we can build new kinds of vehicles. I'm not saying we don't have to drive forever. I'm saying we have solutions and new ideas, to replace all of our energies, all of our burnings today. And this, we should, initiate or immediately begin to build these energy devices and plug them into our grids and anything that's burning oxygen. And, in the cities, I'm saying that we should not drive. People are just sitting in traffic and, going to our jobs. The only thing we really need right now is food and shelter and energy, right? And we need energy to deliver the foods. So the people in the cities, I'm saying to the commanders of the earth, we should send out an emergency signal, tell the people to stand down. If we don't have to drive anywhere, just kind of as we've been doing, and deliver bikes to the cities. The people can ride bikes to the store to gather their food. Of course, we're still going to have our transportation to bring the food into the cities. And that's one of the first things that we should work on changing is our trucks into our cargo airport, our airplanes, our ships that have designs here for ships that can hover and they can land without an airport, and they work together with smaller jets, which can grab whole containers and deliver them to the stores. The mothership is designed to carry at least 20 containers at a time. And she works with a larger distribution aircraft carrier sized or football stadium sized flying distribution ship. So we have that size, which also, besides distributing things, can also produce some crops. If there's so many levels in there, we can have hydroponic systems to grow and have our food. So however we want to make it, and we can have these deliver our food, which would then, save us from consuming more oxygen with our trucks. But I'm saying if we just stop driving our cars, that would be a huge help, even if it's just in the cities. Look at the air quality in the cities, and they're consuming the oxygen from outside of the cities. Just as they burn oxygen, that leaves a void there because that oxygen is heavier than carbon monoxide. We have hydrogen H2O, oxygen dioxide, monoxide. So we're consuming our oxygen down here and turning it into monoxide up here, which is then pushing down on our oxygen levels that are on our mountains, pushing down on them, and that's rushing then into the cities. Particularly when we talk about America here, we have the Appalachians on one side and we have the Rockies on the other. So when we're pushing down our oxygen levels and rushing into the void, they meet in the middle, which is why the wind's blowing against, and we have Tornado Alley in the middle of America. Doesn't that make sense? And we're also sucking the storms into our countries, right? Not only are the levels, I'm sure, lower out on the ocean because there's no really trees out there. Really, the water is supposed to produce its own oxygen. Under the waters, we're supposed to have plants that grow, and the plants down in the bottom of the ocean, that requires, of course, sunlight. Sunlight should be shining through the clear waters, but because our waters are dirty, and dirty for several reasons. Number one is, just more polluted, and we're stirring things up with all of our construction. But even if we don't mention that, we've done things that we're not supposed to do according to the law that El has given us through his spirits, through his prophets, about clean and unclean foods when we eat things like shellfish. Now, don't run away, because scientists, okay, even if we're not talking about God's law, we can go look and see what shellfish do for the waters, that they clean the waters. I once heard from someone who was working with the Chesapeake saying that they were working on restoring the Chesapeake waters. I asked them how they're going to do it, and they said they're restoring the oyster beds. So then it all made sense to me. Yeah, that's why he said these are not foods. These are unclean in Leviticus 11, shellfish and things. Okay, so these things now, because we've eaten them, the waters become murky and they're not being cleaned, which then the sunlight's not able to travel through. It's absorbed in the top levels, which then the top levels warm up and evaporate and create these huge storms. So not only that, but the sunlight's supposed to be magnified by the water and warm up the ocean floor. So if we warm the bottom, hot air rises, supposed to rise and stir the waters. So we're not even stirring the oxygen in for the fish. Everything's becoming like flat and stagnant. Okay, now if we're blocking out the sun by the top levels, it's not reaching the bottom. You would think that the bottom is going to do the opposite of warm up. It's going to cool down, which can possibly create ice on the bottom, which would then expand and cause the whole ocean level to go up. But even if we're not talking about that, the ocean, the bottoms is not being warmed, and that warmth is the vibration that the plants need to grow. So we're killing the plants, and the plants produce the oxygen, the water, which the fish need to breathe. So if we don't have any sunlight, then we have no plants, and then we have no oxygen, then the fish can't breathe, or at least they're deficient of oxygen. And then when we go and we eat those fish, our blood cells become deficient, not to mention the air that we're breathing, that's also deficient of oxygen. So really, we're just consuming our own lives by not obeying God's law and by our pollutions. And the more we do it, the stupider we get, because that's what carbon does. That's what lack of oxygen does. That's what scrambling our own food does. We've created our own slavery. We are the ones who destroy the earth. And people they walk around carrying their rainbow and saying God's not going to flood the whole earth again. Yeah, he's not. I don't even know that he did the first time. I think it was us. We did it. We cursed the earth because we just can't follow simple instructions. Anyway, let's move on to our other solution here for energy. And we could plug these into our grids immediately. We have here, and this is consistent with the design of the Ark of the Covenant in scriptures. We have here, let's show you something here. Let's play. Let's play a little bit. This is what I was doing 2 years ago. I was studying the earth. I learned that, everything is really electromagnet. There's an aether in the air. Everything works through vibration and frequency, as Nikola Tesla also said. I learned that the shape of our earth is not really a spinning ball. It's really flat, and the sun and the moon circle us like a clock, like Vitruvian Man. In each of his hands, in one of his hands, he holds the moon, and in the other hand, he holds the sun, and those are the hands of time. And really, Vitruvian Man is Abraham, and his hands are the hands of time that spin around the earth, the circle of the earth. He's inside of a clock, really. And this is, we could prove that the earth's not spinning through space. And simply by this, if we were spinning 1,040 miles an hour, traveling around the sun at 66,600 feet per hour, and the sun traveling through space at 800 kilometers per hour, that's all kinds of motion. And we should see the stars do all kinds of things, but yet year after year, we still see the same constellations in the same patterns during the same seasons, and the North Star doesn't move. So just think about that. So that just proves, some of the things that we believe today. And, I realize that the reason that they say these things, and lie to us is because, things like NASA, they collect $22 billion a year. If you were making 22 billion, which is what, 1 million, 1 millions in a billion? If you were making that much money a year, would you start telling the people the truth and not receive that money anymore? No, they just keep increasing the fund as they have to continue to bribe more people. 3 years ago, it was only 19 billion. So let's raise it by 3 billion. Not a couple 100,000, not a couple million, $3 billion in 4 years. You know, since even your T-man Trump has been president pretending that we're going to Mars. Yeah, we're going to go somewhere else, guys. Let's go somewhere else because we destroyed this planet. Do you think that it's wise to even take this knowledge with us somewhere else? The knowledge that destroyed this world, let's go destroy some other world if it was another world, not just really a wandering star. Solar luminance, star in a jar, frequency of the heavens. Look that up on YouTube and you'll see that we can create a star in a jar, and it's really just a bubble inside of liquid that we pass sound waves through, and it causes the particles to come together so rapidly that it gives off light like a quasar, exactly like a star. And you can even see the different patterns. When you look at a telescope, there's different sound patterns in the stars, which we can recreate by putting a bowl of water on top of a speaker and playing different frequencies. We can play those same patterns that we see in the stars on our speaker. So it's obviously that these stars are vibration. All right. So anyway, I was learning about these things and learning about magnets, and I also learned how a magnet can hover over, a metal dipped in liquid nitrogen can hover over top of a magnetic field. And if you then push that, it'll stay within the magnetic shape. So if I had a piece of metal right here and I dip it in my liquid nitrogen, I could place it over top of this magnet, and then I could push it and it'll circle. It'll circle it. So really, that's exactly what our sun and moon are doing, except our magnet is more like a record player. So it winds in and winds back out, winds in and winds out. Out here is the Tropic of Capricorn, and inside is the Tropic of Cancer. Tropic of Capricorn, the sun reaches there around December 23rd, which is also, okay, and then it's circling out here, Tropic of Capricorn, and it begins its inward journey then December 25th, which is why we say the sun is born on December 25th, which is why people celebrate Christmas on December 25th. It's really just a flat earth holiday. And you know, Deci, by the way, equals 10, not 12. December should not be the 12th month. Deci should be the 10th month, which would then match the Hebrew calendar 10th month of Tevet, which is also the sign of Capricorn. And Capricorn then is our Tropic of Capricorn. Look, I even have it written down here. I was doing my own little study. We have Tevet, which is Capricorn. Here's our signs. Our 12 months. Sometimes they have a 13th month there. And the reason that we have let me show you. I made this video. I feel terrible to have to. Why do I do this? That I have to repeat everything all over again. The other video was so beautiful. Oh, here's our. Let's pretend this is our circle of the Earth, and that this inside here is our magnet. So then, the reason that we have more than 360 days of a circle, we have 364.24 days. This is your 4.24 days. This distance as it's circling out. You know, that's a little bit of distance there, right? So that makes sense. And the sun and the moon, I can explain why we have the different moon cycles, because the sun travels faster than the moon. So every 30 days, it's lapping the moon. And it's not just flat, you know, the electromagnetic field, but it's like a bubble. So the sun and moon also go up and down. So sometimes they're on different levels. And you could see where the sun is by the light on the moon. It's pointing towards the sun. So sometimes I could see that the sun is a little bit lower than the moon, and it's like over here. So I'm seeing like a little bit of shade on the moon, but when it's 180 degrees across, if the sun is here and the moon is over here, then we're seeing a full moon. You know, when they're close together, then I'm only seeing a little part of the moon lit up. Oh, also, you know, why would we see, why does the sun look bigger when it's red? You know, and the moon look bigger when it's red. And that's because, of course, if we look at our light spectrum, we see that ultraviolet light has small waves, and red light waves are the end of the lights between light and darkness, and they have long waves. So the long waves look bigger to us, to our eyes, because it's a bigger wave, right? That makes sense. And so when the moon is red, it's because it's riding in the sun's set, because light only goes a certain distance. Light doesn't travel forever. At least not the sun's light. I don't believe the stars do either. There's not billions of light years away. If there's a vacuum of space, what does the light waves even travel on? Because even a fluorescent light bulb needs particles of inside the gas to conduct the light. So if there's a vacuum, there's no particles, then what does the light travel on, people? Anyway, let's get into our energy, right? That's why we all came here. We don't care about. I'm just explaining to you why I began to play with magnets. Well, I was playing with them when I was a child too. But I've been busy for a long time, just like surviving in this world as I'm being fined and taxed for trying to survive. And they take things from me, when I've never really committed any crime. So really, you're kicking your own ass again, because I could have been helping you a long time ago. World. Anyway, so here we go. Playing with our magnets. I have 2 magnets. That's all I have. I can't afford more magnets. I gave everything I had to the poor 3 years ago, back in 2017 during the sign of Revelations 12 when it was fulfilled. And I followed it over to Gambia, Africa, which also, the sign of Revelations 12, 1 and 2, it said there was, oh, do you like my tie? I don't like putting it around my neck. I'm having a hard enough time breathing, but sometimes I'll tuck it in here to the side so I look like a Hebrew. I have the long hair on the sides, or maybe these can be my goat ears or whatever. So now I can fit in. Not only am I like your leaders, I'm wearing a tie, guys. I'm wearing a tie, but I'm also Hebrew at the same time. Isn't that cool? And doing my kung fu. It's 3 in 1. My kung fu bands, my karate belt, and but my karate is my words and my understanding. All right, so the sign of Revelations 12, it says there was a sign in the heavens, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon at her feet, and 12 stars above her head. Travailing in pain, she gave birth. Okay, on September 23rd, 2017, the constellation Virgo, a sign in the heavens, was clothed with the sun. It happened during the day. Okay, that's what it means. She was clothed. We couldn't see it. We couldn't see her nakedness. We couldn't see her because she was clothed. With the sun, she had the moon at her feet, and she had 12 stars above her head. Usually, she only has 9 stars in the constellation Leo, the lion of the tribe of Judah. But on this day, she had 3 additional stars, which were the wandering stars, which you call planets, lined up in a straight line with her 9 stars. And those 3 planets represent the 3 wise men. And she gave birth on this day to the king planet Jupiter, which was in her womb for exactly 9 months, which was also 42 weeks, right? 42 weeks, 9 months. The time that it takes for a child to grow. And this sign also represented Mary and Joseph, because that was Joseph's dream. Remember, the sun, moon, and stars came to bow down to him. And remember, so Joseph's dream and the Virgin Mary. So she was a virgin because she was Virgo, and there was your 3 wise men. See, are we understanding now how maybe we've been eating some lies, and maybe the Messiah, maybe who the world thinks they call it Jesus was Jesus. By the way, may you all be healed in the name of Jesus. It's not even his name because there's no J in the Hebrew language. So that's the first lie anyway. And it's more probably consistent with the order of the secret society, the order of the Jesuits, which, they have all the information hidden there, but we can get some of it through the aether, the air. The Akashic records is where I receive, and the aether is the spirits of God. And wow, we could talk a lot about creation, and we could talk about the sign, and we could talk about who I am and where I was when the sign happened. I also made another video about that. Like I said, I was over in Gambia, Africa. I was feeding the poor, just like Buddha did. He gave everything he had and went down and suffered with the people. But I've always kind of been suffering with the people. But, during this time, I willingly chose to give everything, even becoming homeless myself. And I was in Gambia, Africa, which just so happens to look like a vagina inside of Senegal. So maybe that represents the earth, Mother Earth, the Virgin Mother Earth giving birth as I flew out of Gambia exactly on the feast of Sukkot, which is when Israel left Egypt and dwelt in tents. And I also dwelt on people's couches, tents. I didn't have my own home. I left Egypt exactly during Sukkot and fulfilled then the 7th appointed time by staying on people's couches. So, and maybe I am Israel. Maybe instead of Israel, Isis, Ra, and El, Isis is the moon, Ra is the sun, and El is the North Star, or the energy vibration of the stars. Maybe instead of Israel, we should put El back in the middle. El is in the middle, and maybe Ra should be on the right-hand side, just as Scripture says the sun sits at the right hand of God, and then therefore, sits at the right hand of power. Power is El, and therefore the moon, Isis, is on the left. So if we're looking at God this way, then it'll be Ra El is, which is REI, which is like my name, Rai lands. So maybe I am the true Israel, unscrambled as Ra El is. Just saying, maybe we should listen up, and maybe that's why I have the Ark of the Covenant, and maybe I am Mo. And Mo says this, Mo says that. Mo says to touch your noses and do the hokey pokey and turn yourself about. But Mo is going to tell you how to build the Ark of the Covenant. But I need my people to listen up. So I'm wondering, where are you, Israel? These people who claim to be Israel, saying Shabbat Shalom, celebrating these appointed times, carrying around their lampstands, which really just represent our seventh chakra. You have 7 candles represent our seventh chakra. And I showed some of this in another video, how this all, means these things. And how, our seventh, the crown chakra, is really 3 in 1, which are the 3 crosses in Golgotha, and Golgotha means the skull. And it's also the 3 gods of the Hindu religion, Vishnu, Brahman, Shiva, which would be Ra, El is, El, Brahman. Brahman also spells Abraham. So, there we're back to Vitruvian man, Abraham, and by the way, Da Vinci Code, Da Vinci Unscrambled is David Niche code, and niche means technology, so it's David's technology code. So I'm the understanding of the code, and I'm trying to share that with you. I've been trying to get a hold of your leaders. Maybe, I don't know if they're also poisoned by the petroleum, or maybe I just haven't made the right contact yet. Or maybe I just don't trust them, because I've read some things that they've been doing, in some of their books, like Behold a Pale Horse, which was, information received by a former intelligence officer, Milton William Cooper, who was murdered for, recording and sharing this information with the world about how, your beloved Illuminati, secret society, which is controlling your governments, decided that they want to confuse the people. And they also wrote in there, it was the economy relating to energy. And according to their understanding of energy, energy has an end and it consumes. So their economy also consumes and it has an end. So that's why they say, the population control, I guess, as they're burning petroleum, they want to also burn the people. If that's your economy, burn the petroleum, right? Okay, well, I'm saying there's a different kind of energy where we can go the other way. We can multiply energy. We can have eternal energy. So we don't have to destroy our home. We don't have to destroy the people. We have a way that we can provide for them. I know there's a lot of sick people, and it's going to be a little bit of a just to get everything ordered, especially with how sick we are now, even myself, I think it would be a huge help just to have some oxygen for myself so that I could get my thoughts back in order and help you distribute the plan, divide it up correctly, and give it to our different leaders and our countries and get us all working together like one orchestra. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you turned it off now. I'm sure I talked too much already. So let's go back to here. We had 2 magnets. I'm going to cause this one to turn just by spinning this one, right? See that? Isn't that cool? So look, I'll try to do it without having my finger on it. Sometimes it's better to do this on the floor. Let's see. You see what I mean? So isn't that amazing? So if we make generators from, does this drive you nuts? If we make generators from, they're made from magnets spinning inside of copper, or vice versa, copper spinning inside of magnets. That's what your hydroelectric dams, the water pressure is turning a turbine, which then turns the magnet inside of the copper, or your windmill is the turbine turning the magnets inside of their copper, or nuclear energy, which is really just old school back in 1600s, turning water into steam. It's just a very complicated way to turn water into steam. Very complicated. well, maybe not to you, but look at the system that you need for that, towers and all that, for a little bit of steam, which turns the turbine, which turns your generator. It's the same with burning fuel. That's just still heat. Nuclear reaction is just a reaction. Maybe it causes more heat so you can cycle more water and steam more quickly, which is more pressure, which you could turn a higher rate of speed. Well, I'm saying we can do that without all the burning. Now, even if one of these spinning magnets represents a turbine, so say this is inside of your hydroelectric dam spinning, then we can already cause another one to spin for free off of this one's energy. It's spinning for free. That's what I just showed you. So, I mean, we could take what we already have and multiply that energy, at least the clean energy that we have. I would want to shut down our burning as soon as possible, guys. And I'm not saying I want to shut down jobs. I'm saying we can repurpose everything. People who are drilling for oil, now we can drill for water, because we really could use some good, pure, fresh mountain water, which, it just so happens that a lot of the frackers are up in the mountains, the mother frackers fracking the earth, and they already have pipelines. So why don't we just, put water into those pipes instead of natural gas? And, if they're so good at tunneling under the earth and pushing pressure through, why don't we use that idea to bring in waters from the ocean into the dry lands? We can pull them through with, the opposite of push. We could suck them through with the opposite pressure. But really, I have many ideas for electromagnetic, pipes and everything that can pull the waters, or we can push them just as we push the waters apart with the Ark of the Covenant, which is what this other design is. We divided the Red Sea, we divided the Jordan River, we even divided the earth in the very beginning when there was waters and the Spirit of God hovered over the waters, and then he spoke and created the firmament within, and that's where we created the earth. So really, if we have the power to push waters, it's just going to take a little bit of experimenting to see how we can manipulate the waters, and we have to, have our play with different frequencies. All right, let's get into so as I was playing with the magnets, I was like, maybe I could just make them go in a circle, and then, as I'm turning one, they complete the circuit, so that way the end one turns the beginning one again, and it continues to go around forever. So that's when I began to draw, and I drew up a 6-pointed star, of course, and these here represent coils around the outside, which I didn't realize all this till later, but it's consistent even with the designs in scriptures, and it's consistent with other designs around the world. Not this one, but the next one I'm going to show you, because as I was then looking, I problem solved a lot of problems just in my mind, because I can't afford to do my own experiments, so I have to do them in here. I can't afford materials. I don't have the connections. I don't know how to really weld, and I don't have all the numbers and all the little gadgets and the tools and the equipment to do this. So I just have to do it all in here. And I'm sorry, sometimes I seem a little frustrated, because I know that there's many people who do, and I've been trying to get someone's attention for a long time, even to help me just make videos to illustrate these things. And I'm like, there's 7 billion people. Why can't I just get a hand? I even go up to the church. I'm like, hey, we're making our own videos, because now that no one's allowed to go to the church, blah 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 blah. So they continue to pour out the confusion anyway. I can't get a hand here. Well, then if I'm not able to do this, then we're all going to die. So, but I can't do it myself. God explained to Moses how to build the ark, and Moses commanded the men, and the men built the ark. Or else, why do we exist, people? We have a lot of good technologies. I appreciate the artificial intelligence. I appreciate, our lasers and the computers and things that, and a lot of the material that we have. I enjoyed racing and driving cars. It's just, when I realize what we're doing to the earth, now a big part of me I can't drive now anyway. I'm not allowed. I mean, I could pay my fines if I had money, and I could have money if I went to work, but I've been more concerned with the way the earth is right now. So, these have been my studies. I'm working for you, world. So please receive my sacrifice of giving everything I had to receive El's spirit of truth, and now focusing completely on trying to heal the earth. So please receive my sacrifices and my study, or else you're going to have to go do it yourselves. And who of you is willing to go give everything you have and go live with the people in Africa and sleep on the floor and poop in a hole and, have no running water and just almost die several times? Who's going to go do that and then be homeless? Is anyone going to make these sacrifices? Okay, then listen up. So I learned that this doesn't work because I was looking at the poles and they all have to, to push, we have to have similar. So south will push to south. South will push to south, right? So it goes south, 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 over north, 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 south, north, right? So it didn't line up. So I had to add 2 more magnets. You see how we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you see how this magnet is used twice, right? So if we go 1, 2, 3, then the other side of this is 1, 2, 3, 1. So really we're using 2.5 or 2. So really 2.5. So I had to add 2 more, which equals 8. We need a pair. It has to be a pair. I was considering in the beginning to just make a triangle, right? But that wouldn't work, triangle. So 4 would possibly work, yeah. For some reason I drew 6 in the beginning, and then I decided to add 2 more rather than take away, add more, because more is usually better. Especially when you're talking about magnetic fields and the amount of contact. We're having contact from both ends of this. So if we had 2 more, that's even a little bit more, I guess we could say like torque, or more just, you see how I was causing these to spin with just 2. I can cause it to spin completely around. Now, if I had one on each side of it, that also increases its motion or its connection. And depending on the angles that we have it. Okay, anyway, blah, 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 blah. I'm sure you turned it off by now. I don't really know how to edit, so it's up to you. So here, I drew my next design. Is it on here? Drawn. It's drawn. Well, I have the big picture. I don't see the smaller one. Then I added our 2 more magnets, and now we have 8. And then our poles line up. We have south, 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 north, 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 south, 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 north, north, north. So this spins, and it causes this one to turn, 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 causes this one, this one, this one. And okay, so now we have our magnets spinning, and we need to collect that energy. So of course we do that with copper or gold around the outside. But since, just like I showed you with the very first design, since we have a hole in the middle of here, we might as well also put copper or gold in the middle and collect that vibration as well as the outside, right? Which is what we have, drawn up here. This is our cylinder. This is our cylinder for our magnet, goes inside of here. Ta-da! And inside of here, of course, we have our coil, which, we could have a small hole drilled through the magnet, which then brings our, again, that small hole is going to even collect a little bit of vibration itself, right? Unless we have to line it with aluminum, will cut the magnetic field. Depending on the different materials we use. Aluminum, we can use aluminum to cut the fields, and copper to gather the energy. So we then take our wires up, and we can power an electric motor. And the electric motor, then we can control the speed of it and increase the speed of our one magnet, which will increase the speed of all the magnets, which will multiply our own energy times 14, right? If it only takes energy from one of these to produce the energy to power this, then and this has, coil outside and within. I know really we should have more than enough for just this to increase its speed. So and that'll increase our vibration. The vibration then of all of them, which is gathered in the center of our star, 8-pointed star, which would be 9, sits in the middle. Really, Nin is the name of God in Hebrew Aramaic, which now we're seeing that represents 9 is the center of our 8-pointed star. And an 8-pointed star also represents a cube, because a cube has 8 corners, and inside the cube is L. And if you look up different names, look these names up, Saturn's cube, the Muslim cube, the Hebrews cube that they wear on their heads, the Tesseract from the movies Avengers, or the Allspark from the movie Transformers. You'll see that they're all cubes. The Allspark represented the energy force that gave the Transformers life. And the Tesseract represented not only energy, but also intelligence. Remember, they put it into vision. They made another superhero called Vision or whatever in the movie The Age of Ultron, right? So, and it represented understanding, really, which was inside of the Ark of the Covenant, which was also a box. Remember, El lived inside of the box, or God was inside of the Ark of the Covenant with Aaron's rod and a bowl of manna, and of course, the commandments, because really it was the commandments that give us life, right? And inside Aaron's rod was budding, which represents life, because it's, usually a rod would need roots and water and sunlight to bud, but in this case it didn't. It was just budding inside of the ark. And we also had a bowl of manna, and the manna represents man. Understands, man. It means to understand. And the bowl of manna also remains manna. It didn't turn to worms like manna often would one day after being collected, except for on the seventh day. So the center of the ark, or the ark, also represents the seventh day, or the Sabbath, which really represents the crown chakra, the seventh chakra, which is 3 in 1, which I explained in another video, and I don't want to get too much into that because I just wanted to show you how this energy works. Sorry, all the scientists and engineers probably already left because I already talked too much about religion. I bet the environmentalists already left because I already talked about religion, and so I might as well just end the video now. That's how confused the world is. We're just unwilling to listen. Anyway, for any lingerers, we'll continue. Maybe I can entertain you or something, do some tap dancing, or I don't really know how to tap dance. Anyway, tell you some jokes or something. What's the difference between the price in deer nuts and beer nuts? Well, beer nuts are $1, and deer nuts. Is beer nuts are $1.50, and deer nuts are under $1. No. What was some of my Jew jokes I had earlier? I know the Jews would really appreciate them, but I should have wrote them down. Sometimes I just come up with funny jokes. Some of them are kind of offensive. That's why they're funny. Anyway, let's look at the scripture of how this relates to the Ark of the Covenant, right? So if we go to Exodus 25, verse 12, we can see that. It says, "And you shall cast 4 rings of gold and put them in the 4 corners, the 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other side." So in the 4 corners, well, 4 corners if we had a square, but here we have a box which has 8 corners, and our stars, 8 pointed stars. So let's just put gold rings in all 8 corners. 2 on one side, 2 on the other, or 4 on one side, 4 on the other, right? These are gold rings, which are really just cylinders. This is our cylinder that we put our magnet inside of. And then it says, in verse 13, "You shall make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold." Well, who knows if this was translated right, or maybe they had a different type of ark back then. But who knows if it was even translated right? Because, all we had is these symbols, which then people decided that, this is what this means. And then let's carry that on to the next interpretation. We'll regurgitate that thing down the line, which then we receive today from really, I guess we would say, false messiahs, because to means to understand. The Messiah is the message I understand. Messiah. The mess I understand, why we have a mess, and the message I understand. So those who don't understand or decipher what Lou has ciphered, they don't understand the code, are false messiahs. So our teachers, our rabbis, our priests, our pastors, and your archaeologists who, think that they're deciphering, maybe they got some of it right, yeah, and maybe even some of the words right, but we're not understanding the code. So that, and if you pass that down as the description of the Ark of the Covenant, the way that they draw it up, then we think we understand that. Now we're filled with vomit, regurgitated understanding, which is not understanding. It's false messiahs. So they're antichrists. Okay? That doesn't have to be like, it's really the thing that's holding us back. All we have to do today is accept and receive that we have been deceived. And then we can look for the truth, which I'm giving you the truth. It's to open your minds and allow someone else to give us the understanding. And if what I'm saying makes sense, then it is the understanding. And it can be proven by when we build these things and they work. But you have to have some faith and just obey. Obey Moses. when he says to build the ark. Okay. Anyway, let's continue. And in verse 14, it says, you shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to lift up the ark by them. So we'll put our north and south poles into our rings. Here we go in our rings. And it lifts up the ark energy, the magnetic fields, the angles of energy, lifts them up as we spin and the waves collide, and we'll create a huge shield of energy. And here it says then in 17, making a lid. 18, it says you make 2 cherubim, and cherubim were really angels, and angels could just represent angles. So we have here it says 2 angles. We have our 2 angles. We have this angle and this angle. We have 4 of these angles and 4 of these angles. So 2 angles. And we also have 2 directions of spin. We have clockwise and counterclockwise. Clockwise, counterclockwise. 2 and 2. So, that could be our 2 angels' angles, and it says that they have wings, then the spreading of their wings. Make 1 cherub at one end and the other at the other end, and make the cherub from the lid of atonement on its 2 ends. And the cherubim shall be spreading out their wings above, covering the lid with their wings. Okay, so the wings represents the spreading of the electromagnetic field, which covers the entire ark with energy, vibration, which we can collect then in the middle. We can have conduit either running from our coils directly. Remember, we have a coil inside and outside. Our gold rings are both within and without. So, we can either just use direct conduit, or we can likely collect the wireless vibration right here. We can have a whole spider's web weaving of copper or gold. We can play with different designs. It's going to be beautiful. All right. 9. And you already saw our obelisk, our Asher pole, electromagnetic tools. Here we go. Here's your Vatican sun symbol. Right. In the Vatican, you have your obelisk in the center. If you look at it from an aerial view, and you have 8 spokes to your wheel, this is also the Star of Anunnaki. If you look that up, you have your representation of 8. You have your waves, and then the star points, and then in the center we have 9. This is also your temple on the mount. It's an octagon. Right in the center of the temple is God, where God sits. El is his name. Your 9, is written in Hebrew, or El, Elohim, Daniel, Israel, Ezekiel, LLL, electric, electromagnetic, elect, energy, vibration, life, Zeus, Jupiter. All right. Comprende? All right. And also, just for illustration, I had these other things drawn up. Right here we have our 8 magnets. We have an electric motor in the middle here, and an electric motor here, because 4 go clockwise and 4 counterclockwise. Remember, so these 4 are plugged into the 4 blues, which go clockwise, and these 4 are plugged into this electric motor, which go counter. And this electric motor can be powered by just one of these, but it can also be connected to all 4 for more control. Right? That makes sense. Or, like I was saying before, we can actually make the cylinders of the ark. Let me go get my cylinder. Don't go anywhere. So here we have this represents our cylinder that the magnet goes inside of, and we can actually make this the electric motor by drilling little holes all over here and putting in little mini electromagnets, which then push. If our magnet has a north and a south, then on this side we can have north and this south to cause the magnet to hover inside of here. So there's no contact there's no rubbing. That means there's no heat, right? And then we can also use those mini electromagnets programmed with the chip to switch their charge. So, as we have a positive here, and this side of the magnet is positive, we can also have a negative that's, is pulling our magnet around from both ends of this, right? You have pushing this side and pulling this side, so it turns. And the same thing over here, pulling this side and pushing this side, so causing us to turn inside of our cylinder. So really, this can become our electric motor in each one of our cylinders, and we can cause the magnets to hover, which equal zero friction, which then equals, zero resistance or zero heat, and we can increase our speeds even more. But even if we're not talking about that, we could even cycle liquid through our cylinders to cool it, even if you want to say liquid nitrogen or whatever you want to say for superconductivity. And I believe superconductivity happens because the particles, the atoms are frozen, which then the electric is able to find more of a stable and consistent a path, right? Say, usually our atoms are moving around, so our electricity is like jumping. You see lightning, and it's like all kinds of. Sometimes you'll see the lightning make the same pattern, though. If it's, you see two strikes in a row, but you see how the lightning is jumping across from particles, right? But if they're frozen, they're not moving, then it can find its straight line. So, that's why we have, I believe, superconductivity happens in super cool temperatures, right? And I believe we can also imitate this, artificially reproduce this with our, electromagnets, like our pipes here that I have drawn up. By the way, if we're causing energy to push here and it converges into a beam and pushes upwards, a cone is the opposite of a donut, because a donut has a hole. This is the opposite of a hole, right? Which also we can see some of the Egyptian artifacts that they had cones and donuts, and I believe that those represented, of course, magnets, right? So if this was, let's just pretend that at the top of this is a cone, right? So that would converge all our energy into a point and shoot that beam upwards, right? And let's amplify this with energy. So we're really pushing up. So I believe that would cause our magnet then to shoot up, but we want to keep it hovering up in the sky. So, as our electromagnetic field comes to a point, it matches the bubble, like it fits right inside of our, the magnetic field of the donut's going to be like this. So the point fits right in the middle, makes a little pyramid, which then this can hover on top of up in the sky. And then this could represent, of course, a platform that we could build cities on top of, homes, or whatever. This could be a satellite dish if you just want to call it that. I mean, it's just one way of lifting things. And it doesn't have to be really a solid magnet. We can recreate a magnet with smaller electromagnets, with their energy. Each can have its own little energy and just create that little hub or fitting that the magnetic field shoots up into to interact with it. There's many different ways to do things, right? And consider that we could even just make electromagnets that have their own little energy source with one of these energies, and we can clamp them onto different things. Like, say we cut out a huge pillar out of the earth with our lasers, which, by the way, we can bend lasers, I'm sure, if light is just another magnet. Light is moving on particles, which are magnets, right? So, we can also manipulate that with energy and pull that beam around to make a cutting tool that only goes so deep, because I know a laser goes like 6 miles. So we're going to be cutting out 6-mile chunks of rock. Okay, whatever. So let's say we cut out a 6-mile chunk of rock. Well, it's not going to be that long, but let's say we have a huge pillar and we could clamp onto that 2 electromagnets, right? So then we've just made our pillar into a magnet, which then we can have our ships lifted up with tractor beams, magnetic fields that it shoots down to pull the thing up. And as we're pulling up, we also don't want it to crash into us, so we can push at the same time, so it kind of hovers underneath us as we fly. Or we can do the opposite and lift it up and slide a board underneath and hover and move it that way on a hoverboard, which I also have ideas for that, which you might have seen in one of my other videos, where I began to describe different ways of propulsion in that one, but I didn't really get around to showing you the different ships that I have. Anyway, here we are again. And I was saying pipes. What was I saying for pipes? Why pipes? Anyway, let's get out our pipe here and we will remember what we were talking about. Guess I'm losing my mind because of the lack of oxygen, because I'm down here suffering with the rest of the people. I'm not a mighty man. I just have a mighty plan. William H. Rylands IV. great-great-grandson of Adam Rulins, a family of knights from Belgium, and Ru being Abraham's forefather's name. Therefore, I am Abraham. Before Abraham was, I am, says John 8:58. Here we have our pipe with a hole in it, right? And if we're able to move the particles of the iron rod that are in the iron rod, I believe we can also move the particles within the pipe as well. So if what's within here is water or air, we can cause air or water to flow through here. Now, if we're pushing the air and the water this way, then our pipe's going to want to go the opposite way, right? Well, we can counteract that, of course, by double wrapping our pipe. As we have one way pulling the center, then we can wrap it with aluminum to cut that magnetic field and wrap the other way with our coil, and also have energy on that to counteract the push of the pipe to cause it to hover wherever we want it, but it can still suck or blow if we want her to blow. We love that. Anyway, blah 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 blah. We had tractor beams to lift things. We have our, oh, right, if we're shooting a beam forward, then we can also use that to attract our own ship into it. Holy ship. You know, if we're shooting, say, a positive beam forward, then we just make our ship the opposite of the beam and pull ourselves into our own beam as we're firing it forward. And then we can travel at the speed of beam, which is light speed, or maybe even faster than light speed. And, you know, I explained in my other videos how we can survive the G-forces of that. I'm sure I'm leaving so much out because every video I feel like degenerates a little bit. And I hope I talk fast enough for you in this one, because some people say that I talk too slow, so I try to speed it up a little bit for you, okay? And I'm not good with the editing, so of course I have to do it myself. As they say, if you want to get something done, look at the end of your own arm. See, at the end of my own arm is my little computer here, my keyboard. So I was typing away, but my spelling is getting worse and worse. And I don't know if that's because of what I'm breathing in, because I've always been dyslexic and kind of I've been mixing up the words lately. So I guess I am breathing in some of the babble. You know, sometimes my B's are P's or my B's are D's, which is really just like as above, so below, because really a 9 could be a 6. 666 is 999. You know, I'm the opposite of 666. I'm the 999. 999, 27, right? 2 plus 7 is 9. 666, 18. 1 plus 8 is 9. 99. Allah. Say Allah 99 times, which is really all ah. All understanding ah. You get it? The king is here. King, author of life. The author. Oh, and I didn't even get into how this was a magnet, right? Or I mean an atom. If we have each 8 electrons, and an electron has a positive and a negative, or a man and a woman, or a proton and a neutron, then 8 electrons equal 8 protons and 8 neutrons, which equals oxygen. Now we have pure, unlimited energy and oxygen mobile devices. So we can create, I always say, to make it into a, let's play with nano technology and make it into a nano cell, which then we can marry with our cells and give our blood cells eternal life and eternal oxygen. But if we're not up to that level yet, where we know how to put these in with our cells and control them with many computer chips programmed with our, you know, even externally with our phones, until we learn how to, until we heal enough to use our minds to control it, you know, if we can't do that yet, then we can always build a lung that's giving us oxygen. And we can go underwater then if we're producing our own oxygen from within us. So that means we can become Aquaman. And, you know, I also showed you in another video how I have designs for a heart. Is that in this book? No. I think it's in here. Here it is. Oh, here's our heart, right? This is another Really, this represents a speaker box. If you ever look on, you can even go into YouTube. I don't know if you've ever had a stereo system in your car with your speakers in a box and you had your, speakers ported or whatever. But, you amplify that bass and it's pushing the windows out of your car, bending the doors off the frame. I've even seen, when they turn that up, there's like a woman sitting in the front seat and all her hair is just hovering. So that just shows us that we can hover on vibration. But it also shows us that there's a lot of energy with speakers, really, when you think about it, because they're sucking and blowing air, which is the same thing that our heart does. So really, that's what this design is right here. It's just a circle with speakers all around, and we can cause them to all pull in together at once with vibration, which is our beat, which is our rhythm, which is our heartbeat, right? And I was also thinking that since we're doing this with a magnet inside in the center, that magnet might as well be one of our pipes, which I just showed you here was our pipe, right? Which was hollow. So really, this is also a pump, but we're also having energy pulsing through this, which then would pull the speakers around the outside. So we're pumping here, and we're pumping around the outside, so it's a double pump. So we literally built a heart here, but this can also be used for propulsion with one-way valves, electronic valves. And we just turn that up and we'll take off. And we can hook these then to vacuum hoses and have our vacuum hoses come to different parts of our ship to pull us different directions. There's your thrust vectoring and your intake vectoring. As much as we have our thrust vectoring on one end, but why don't they have intake vectoring on their jets? I say use vacuum hoses rather than those vector, because they look very complicated with all their little levers and everything. And imagine if, just a little piece of that gets damaged, the whole thing's screwed up. So, it's better to just listen to Moses, or Simon Peter says, Simon the rock, who pulled the sword out of the rock, and the rock was the word, which is the designs. So I have the keys to the understanding. Are you listening? And we also have here, are you listening to me, Illuminati? Or are you still just following your own ways? Yeah, I know you committed a lot of crimes, but we can clean all that up. Do you want to live now? Are you ready to listen up? Shut that Trump up. Shut that trumpet. Use a false trumpet. We'll get him blasting when he understands. Actually, you can play the trumpet. Let's just play the truth, though. He can talk all loud and say, hey, yeah, our world is polluted, guys, and I need to shut the cities down, and you guys need to ride bikes to the store, and, here's our plan, blah, 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 since he's so good at talking, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, here we have that same design as I showed you in one of my videos. Here, where's our speakers? Hurry before they turn the video off. Oh, this was a cool little idea. Anyway, here I had a water tower, which a water tower would then we fill it with water and it's airtight. And then when you open the valve, of course, for all that weight to then push down, something has to go in to replace that. So if our something was a pipe down into our well, we can pull water up as much as we're pushing water out, and that would create motion, which then we could hook hydroelectric generators to it and produce our own energy, which then we can also cycle this water into our greenhouse. Not only are we making energy, but we're cycling the whole water through our greenhouse, which is geothermal heating, and then the water comes back down into our well and spills into our well, so we never run out of water. So now we have, and the water can also double as our conduit. If we want to light up the water, it becomes a fluorescent light bulb inside of our greenhouse, and then we could grow our stuff just by having water towers, if we're not even talking about the other energy devices that I just created. Does that make sense? Of course, it all depend on how high our tower is and how big the pipes are and how much, we have to cycle this water. But consider that even these pipes running through here are part of the water tower because they're above the ground as well. So even our home is the water tower with this extra water tower. So this just gives us more flow. Are you getting my flow? Wrapping here for you? Let's wrap this up, guys. Where's the rest of our speakers, guys? Hey, you guys, where'd they go? Shit. You said a bad language word. Yeah, I think that's the least of our problems right now. Shit just means poop. And by the way, where did it even originate was because, they used to ship manure in the boats. I guess I don't know what our fascination is with shit anyway. Maybe they were making bombs, or it was their cannon, or maybe they were spreading on their fields, whatever. They used to ship it in ships on the bottom decks, and it would mix with salt water, which would then make a explosive fuel, which I guess maybe that's how we make bombs. Maybe that's why that thing blew up over in what was the name of the Beirut? Where was it? Anyway, all the manure exploded, got wet maybe with salt water, right? So they used to stamp on the packages ship high in transit because they didn't want it mixing with the water, which created the explosives, which would then sometimes blow up the ship. So ship high in transit is SHIT. Put the shit upstairs, guys. All right, so that's where that word came from. So now we understand that it's not a bad word, just like other words are not really bad words. It's just descriptions. I mean, you say negro, and that's just really black in Spanish. Blanco is white. Don't call me Blanco. They call me Tupac in Africa. I was like, what does that mean? Tupac? I could try to rap, but I'm not really Tupac. They're like, no, dummy. I'm like, that didn't offend me. Dummy didn't bother me. But they said, no, Tupac means white man. Now I'm offended. You could call me dummy, but don't call me white man, even if I am a white man. Now, you could look up other words that people use, like the NIGGER word. What does it mean? Black. Okay, so if we have black skin and someone calls us black skin, why do people get offended? And I'm looking for my speakers here, and I'm not seeing them, but I thought they were all close together on this. But maybe they're in another book. Remember, I am losing my mind, remember? Need to drink more water, stay hydrated. That's another thing. Stop GMOing our seeds. Stop it now. I know that you know that it kills people. And maybe that's what they're trying to do with their population control. But I'm saying, even if you're doing that, you suck. You suck at killing people because they're not dying. They're just suffering. You can't even do that good. Why not just come kill them already? Just make it quick. Put people out of their misery. What kind of person wants people to suffer for a long time? Asshole. You suck at everything you do. I mean, at least let me help you. I have ideas for rail guns, Let me help you kill us quickly. Let's do that. Yeah. Put me out of my misery, too. Where are we at? Before we create a bunch of zombies and living in the zombie apocalypse, which we already are. Remember, I showed you this. Here we have this. And I showed you how, we can push this with electromagnetic field and cause this to go... Right? So then instead of just using this shaped magnet, use magnet balls, musket balls. We're back to our musket balls, and then we're not having explosions inside of here, and we don't have to worry about reinforcing our barrels like they do on the tanks. You see on the end, at the beginning, it's like all clamped together with all this extra metal because that's where explosion, and as it begins to travel down the barrel, then has room to expand, so we don't have to worry so much at this end. But how silly, really, the longer you make the barrel, it's not going to add any more really power. I guess maybe a little bit to an extent. But when we're using an electromagnetic or a rail gun, we're accelerating the whole time. We increase accelerations. We don't lose pressure, because really in a cannon barrel, you would have to have several explosions along here to do what we can do with a rail gun. So imagine what we can do then with a little musket ball, and if we say we charge one side of this more than the other, so it moves faster at the top than at the bottom, we can cause the ball to spin, which if we put like a forward spin, it should try to go up instead of fall. So really it'll shoot level for longer because it's trying to climb on the air rather than fall. It climbs as it falls, right? Or we can cause something to turn. We can cause the bullets to spin, like you can curve a baseball. It's just by the spin that we put on it. Of course, we can, change easily, design this by having water as our conduit, or a gel or a liquid that flows. So our energy goes down the flow of the water. So we can increase the flow on one end and slow it on the other, right? But our energy can remain the same. And that should make the difference. I'm sure there's many different designs. I'm just giving you some of the beginning concepts that we can build upon if you want to receive it, because every time I send a video, someone's like, oh, well, you know nothing. You know nothing. What you should do is study this, this, and this. Well, I was saying, if I was studying your ways, I would be already practicing that. I'd probably be up on the telephone pole connecting wires together. So the very reason that I have new ideas is because I have been studying under L and thinking in my mind and creating and imagining and making the things come to life in here. So maybe we should consider that. These things will be superior and use less energy than these weapons and things that you have today. I've seen them build their railguns are like, a football stadium long, and have all these wires plugged in. Now imagine what we can do just with our unlimited energy, how many wires we can recycle, even on our cell towers. You see all the wires that go into these cell towers just to produce your 5G? Well, we could take all the components off of our towers and put them on drones that we make that can hover up in the sky forever. Even if we want to beam them up with our energy and just have them hover like that, we could do it that way, or we can have propellers on them, or we can use our cone and vibration, which I showed you in another video. There's many different ways, or we can use by changing our positive and negative, that's going to interact. So we take our ship and we have positive on the bottom, negative on the top, it's going to go up or down. Just as I've shown you with our other pipe thing, really, that's the same expression as hot and cold. So we can make one side hot, heat rises, and cold above. So we're cooling the air up here and the hot, and it's going to shoot up through our own air, right? So we can also do that. And if at the top of the dome is really just an electromagnetic field, an electromagnetic field can also be a magnet, then we could always just attach things to the top of the dome if we could go up that high. But we haven't been able to get up that high because up there is the thin air where there's not many particles. So we really have to compress the air to be able to, fly with it. Now, part of that will be we can use magnetic fields to pull things back together. Like I'm sure we can tune our energy to pull together all the carbon molecules, and the same with the nuclear waste, which is really just decompressed uranium, right? It's a chemical reaction which causes it to come apart. It's a reaction that causes pieces to vibrate, which really makes an ember. It's the same as burning wood. When we burn wood, that's just a chemical reaction, and then the embers continue to burn, which is really just the vibration of all the little particles rubbing against each other as they start to come apart and go up into the air. And then that's, it's radiating, fire embers do the same thing that the nuclear does. It's really just cooking us. That's what it's doing. That's what radiation does, right? So we could put those same fires out. I've seen them put fires out with sound weapons. I mean, we have these now, but I believe we can also bring the particles back together. If they're being pushed apart through vibration and rubbing and pushing apart through chemical reaction, the chemical reaction can also be explained with, electromagnetism. Then we can also pull it back together. We can create, a shield around the radiation and then pull it into itself. Or we can even create something like a black hole, which just pulls everything back together into a solid mass, which then, it's going to be heavy and dense. And if that whole thing is garbage, then we can take it and we can coat it with something like glass, glass, and then maybe plastic, play different materials, coat it, in a huge vat or whatever, and then cast it down into the oceans, into the deepest part that goes down into the eternal waters. I believe there's openings under the earth that go out into the eternal waters, or, that's all around us, because we know that we're not living on a spinning ball and there's no vacuum of space, but really there's waters all around us, eternal waters, heavy hydrogen. And we can also use our energy to actually go and fly out of the earth to separate the magnetic field of the shield over the earth, and like give birth. The earth gives birth as we push through with our energy. We push the energy apart, and we come out like a child giving, like a mother giving birth, like poking our heads. I'm coming through, guys. And then we're out there in the waters, and we have our energy shield around us. Of course, the submarines we have today, we can only go down so far because the pressure without is too great for the air within, and it collapses, crunches up our submarines. Now, we can counter that, of course, if we have energy pushing out, especially if our submarines are made of like iron or steel these days. That's metal, which will interact with our magnetism, so we can push out on our ship as much as it's pushing in, and we could go down, forever deep if we want to. But say we can push out even more. Now, when we're able to manipulate the waters, we can even push out a vacuum around us or cause us to have a air pocket. And if we could do that, then we could just make air pockets all under the ocean and build our little homes in the ocean as well. We can even do that to plant the oceans. So say, instead of having our deep sea divers and all that slow motion in the waters, we'll just open up a huge area and we'll go in there and do all of our work and our planting and do what we have to do. We can even put our own little sunlight in there, or just shock the earth with energy and see what that does. Because if all we need is vibration to grow these things, or energy, then we can just use our energy. We don't necessarily have to use the sun, and cause the plants to grow, bring the coral back to life, then collapse our shield and let that begin to filter and heal the waters, as well as our ships. Our ships should all have filters. As much as we're sucking air through, we should be pulling out the carbon with magnetism. So it's just pulling the carbon out, bringing it back together. So the more work we're doing with our new ships and everything, we're also cleaning at the same time. So we begin healing the moment we build this energy and the moment we go airborne with our first ship. And where are we going to get the products? We're going to just recycle everything we have. That'll pay for more. We'll have more material left over than what we began with, because it's not going to take near as much of all the copper and all the wires. We don't need wires anymore. We can just beam energy with lasers if we want, or we can each have our own devices in our homes for our own energy. I mean, of course, we can use the wires for now to, connect our energy to the grid for immediate, resuscitation. To counter for our factories, we'll tear our power plants down first and use the components in there if we want to do that first. And then we could also take, the components off of our cell phone towers, put them on our satellites and hover them up in the air, and we'll have all those wires as well. And that'll give a lot of jobs to a lot of people as they begin to recycle things and begin to connect things and begin to clean up trash. There'll be more than enough work for everyone. We're all part of this, and we can have the farmers. Let's go start growing some food. Let's go into the desert. Let's bring waters into the desert. The frackers and the oil companies like to drill tunnels and stuff and have their pipes and stuff. Let's run our pipes into the desert and have sprinklers shoot up our water, which comes from the ocean, which is mineral rich, and it'll give us life. And then we can cloud seed the clouds with real seeds that grow into trees and things. And, then we could shock the earth with our energy, lightning, and everything will just grow. And then we'll have oxygen almost immediately. So, what are we waiting for? Hello? Are you ready to go? Besides this, I have a lot more. I have your ship designs. I have everything that you need. Are you listening? Where were we? Pipes, blah, 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 tractor beams, blah, blah. I had designs for so many things, I forget what we were really talking about. So let's pick up another picture here. I don't know. Here we have a bridge intercontinental bridge that we can build on the water. Instead of using, anchoring it to the ocean floor, we just have ballast tanks which we can adjust the air so it can cause it to go up or down. And then we can cause it to go up or down to counter the waves. So that way it stays level. As the waves are going up and down, we still stay level. And we could also have little, self-powered trolling motors or whatever you want to call it to keep us according to our GPS position, to keep us straight, if that's how we want to do it. Or we can use magnetic connections to tower to tower to hold us straight in alignment. And that's the same idea that we want to use with our roadway here. Instead of using cables, we can use energy beams, that pull together. We have that, like I showed you that one concept. We also have, what is that here? Shit. You said a bad language word. Oh, stop being a fucking baby. Oh, write that down. You can't be a leader. One time he said fuck, and he also said he wants to grab women by the vagina. Oh, well, I mean, it's better than grabbing a little baby or a boy, isn't it? Yes, I want to grab women by the vaginas. You can do anything when you're rich, says Trump. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not rich. Anyway, so here we have a satellite dish design. Here we have our, as I showed you with the obelisk that can push energy. If we can push, we can also pull, right? But just reversing it. So here we're pulling we're pulling our ship's magnetic field. This is our tractor beam pulling in. And then these are our beams shooting out to keep it from colliding with us. We can just change how much. We're pulling 100% and pushing 80. And then we lower this, or 70, 60, 50, 40, whatever, to bring it slowly or quickly, however fast we want to lift something up. So we could use this same concept of pulling with our bridge that we build. So we can pull wirelessly. We're done with wires and cables and chains, people. We're also done with a lot of our complicated mechanics, because we have a very simple way of connecting things with an electromagnetic ball and socket. This, I should show you this because this is very important. But I didn't finish showing you this, right? Now we have a push beam as well. It pushes up our city. We can build on up here, really with additional energy. These guys can vibrate, our vibrating cones. If you vibrate a cone, it's going to push away from the tip. So we can have our vibration here underneath our towers. These represent towers, which can have docks for our ships to come in and land. So we could call this a birdhouse. It's like up in the sky. We could build different shapes, our pyramids. We could even have these guys come together down at the bottom to make like a pyramid at the bottom, with their vibration. I mean, even if we're building up in the sky, there's not much to see up, but we want to look down. So we can build like an upside down pyramid that goes up into the sky. That would be better than the other way around. I often wonder why they put the cockpit at the top of the airplane where you can't see anything. Oh, hey, what's the view down there of your target? Well, I can't see shit except for a couple clouds and some black. Yeah, not much to see up here. Control to pilot. Yeah, nothing much going on. It's kind of boring. I thought this was going to be exciting, flying in through like the canyons or something. Nope. And you know what? No one told me that I'd have to shit my pants when flying a fighter jet, because there's no bathroom. Yeah, no one decided to put a little flap on the back and make the co-pilot seat into a little toilet seat, so I could just poop into my seat and flush it out the bottom of the airplane. I mean, we could shoot missiles and bombs, but hey, I got to shit my pants at the same time. Boy, that's uncomfortable. I missed my target because I was shitting myself. And then, oh my goodness, the last thing I want to do is eject. There'll be shit everywhere. Please don't get shot down. I don't want to eject. Anyway. And you know what? We could do away with seatbelts too, because if we have things like suits that are made from copper or gold weave clothing, we have our little energy emblem. We can use my Hark Energy emblem here. I like this one because there's a lot of things in here. Really, this is also the Vitruvian man. He has his legs to get apart here in his two hands, which hold the sun and the moon. And this is also the square, the four corners of the circle of the earth. And we have the eye here, which is the picture within a picture within a picture within a picture, represents seeing three into another dimension. And we have our numbers 1 through 9 here, and we have an A, and we have a Y, and we have a W. W could be William. Y, originally we want to say Yahuwah, or we could say Y-A-W, Yahweh. Yah is also the pitching of an aircraft, and way. This is the way, follow me. There's a lot of representations. We could go with the colors blue and red and purple, blah, 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 blah. Who gives a shit anyway? But this could be our little emblem that's on our clothing, which then powers our suit, which then makes us electromagnet and to interact with our ship. But why else was I saying this? Oh yeah, for our cockpit seat. So pretend this is my, I'm flying in my jet, and as I'm like slamming on the brakes, if they even have brakes, yeah, your jets aren't as cool as my jets. My jets go full reverse, blowback instantly. As much as we're sucking air, we have another arc spinning the other way. So just a little shift of the clutch, and we grab onto those other guys, and we're blown back. So we throw us forward. So when that happens, we hit the brakes. Our seat is magnetic, and it pulls us stuck here to the seat, to reverse it. And at the same time, the front of the craft can shoot out an energy beam to push us back. as we have magnetism. We're magnetic now. We interact with the ship, which then can counteract anything that our ship does. If we're turning to the side, the energy is pushing us back. So it keeps us steady. No matter what we're doing in the ship, it's as if we're not even moving. So there's no G-force. But even if there is some of that, still, we can still pulse our suit to pump the blood up to our heads. So now, isn't this wonderful? We don't even have seatbelts anymore. We can take a dump in the seat and flush it out the bottom like the birds do, and we can try to hit cars or something like they do too. I'm all out of missiles. Do you have any shits? I got one shit and one piss. All right. Well, let her rip. We could freeze our little shit balls and shoot them through our guns. Set them on fire at the same time. Mix them with a little salt water. We'll never run out of ammunition. Just keep feeding me. I'll have shit balls all day. Anyway, so that's another idea for our railguns. We can actually freeze little BBs, little iron inside of a larger mass. Because then we could shoot it farther. So say I want to deliver a BB 100 miles. I'm not going to be able to shoot that through a little gun, but I can freeze it inside of a huge block of ice and shoot it through one of my big guns. And as it's flying, the ice is melting off. You can do the same thing with rockets. We could shoot little things through big guns. We should be shooting our rockets through rail guns as well. And then, when they reach their distance, then they ignite their engines. And then I'll give them 1,000,000 times the distance that they fly now. Even just the missiles taking off. You use most of your energy just to get it started. So, same thing with your airplanes, your jets on your aircraft carriers. Although we don't really even need launch pads. We don't need airports when we could go straight up and straight down. But, if you want to utilize the things we have now instead of those stupid pulleys and ropes and things that cut people's legs and arms off, we can use, electromagnetic launch rather than, steam. Hey guys, we're still using the steam engine. We're still, here's our railroad track and here's where the train flies off into the air, but we call them jets these days. Okay. And really we're just flying. It's just a controlled explosion, guys. Really, you're flying on a bomb. Here, put a guy on the front of our missile and shoot it. He's got a little steering wheel with smaller bombs under the big bomb. Bomb, 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 bomb. Oh, we're going to have to cut this video off. I think he said bomb one too many times. Nuclear, 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 bomb, 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 terrorist, terrorist, terrorist. That's it. Red flags. Call the FBI. Good. Maybe I want this video to be tagged. Maybe it'll get someone's attention. Bomb, 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 nuclear, nuclear. Catapult the propaganda. Terrorist, 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 terrorist. Thanks, Bush. Good idea. This guy's a nut. He just keeps talking. Anyway, where were we? I don't even remember what we were doing now. But I was showing you some different things. So let's just open to another page here. What do we have in the Bible? The Bible was written by Bill. Next year is the year of Jubilee. Jubilee. It's all about Bill, isn't it? Bill, will I am, the will of I am. Henry, ruler of my household, Ryland, R-E-I, Ra-El is. Son of Ru, which was Abraham's forefather, who is also Brahman, which is the center of the three gods of the Hindus, Vishnu, Brahman, Shiva. I have the sun in one hand, the male, and the moon, Isis. She's so beautiful. She manipulates me. Evil. The woman represents evil, as we all know, as all men know. Woman is evil, and men, we are the light. We're the energy, right, that gives the sun, we're the suns that give the moon its energy. So, well, really, the sun's supposed to protect the moon, but she's so evil anyway. She can protect herself with her little manipulation. Actually, I have enough problems defending myself from her. Self-defense. Don't mess with me. I got my. When you see this, you know that I'm a blue belt. So anyone want to fight, Yeah, and you, Rothschild, would you want to play some cards or some chess or something? See who's better? How about I get my gloves? Where's my gloves? I challenge you to a duel. Everyone else is down there worshiping. Yes, sir. We love you, sir. Honorable sir. And I'm like, did you write silent weapons for quiet wars, motherfucker? You're a piece of shit. And everyone else is worshiping him. So funny. You know what? I'll help you polish your shoes, but I'll probably just tie your shoelaces together and push you over and take your wallet. And then I'll take your money and invest it wisely for once, and I'll return you more than I stole from you. Of course, I had to steal it because you're so stingy. Yeah, keep my gold in my basement. It's just gonna, just exist down here for no reason. Gold in the basement. Let's build more buildings to protect our gold. And if we can't protect it in buildings, we'll have cars drive around with gold bars. We won't give the locations, they'll always be driving, and we'll hire guards with paper to protect the paper. Paper that we had to cut down trees and send the trees to the mill, and then the mill sent it to the printing press, and then the printing press printed the paper, and then we distributed it to our different banks around the world, and we have guards to protect it, and trucks and gasoline, and holy shit, that was a lot just to produce the paper. We've spent more money producing the paper than the paper's even worth anymore. It's the same thing with our mail and Trump's campaign. Hey, Trump. Hey, guys, I'm going to send you different letters every week, different sizes. Do I have my Trump letters here for my campaign? Hey, guys, I need your support for my campaign. Please elect me again, and I'll send you more garbage next year. 4 years from now, I'll send you more garbage. Which comes from trees, which we cut down and printed on and delivered by our mailmen, and then you just throw it out in the trash, and then the trash man comes and collects it and puts it in the landfill. Hey, thanks for your help there, Trump. Yeah, you're really being wise leader. I just saved us all millions of dollars because I'm not campaigning with paper. Yeah, I'm campaigning, by the way, yeah, in case you didn't notice. I know I'm not, one of the elite. Didn't go to the little Skull and Bones in Harvard, and I'm not a part of the little secret societies and keeping secrets from people. I know I'm not part of, the pocket of Satan. I'm not one of his little puppets. I didn't have to rape any children to get here because I'm nowhere anyway. I'm just down here, guys, campaigning. Okay? I know I'm not on the list, but it's okay. I don't have to be. Just write my name in. William. We want William Ryland to be president. Check. Why? What's he going to do for you? Well, you said something about, providing food for everyone and shelter for everyone and even energy. Even if he has to charge us a little bit for energy, it's going to be much less than the taxes that we're paying now. And he's going to fix the law and even the time. September is no longer going to be the 9th month. It'll be 7. And, Octa will be 8 again. We're so just excited about that. And also free energy and cleaning up the world. Well, holy shit. And he even said maybe even eternal life when you marry the energy with their cells and that we could breathe underwater. Holy shit. I think we want him to be our leader instead of Trump or Biden or whatever. These are your 2 choices, America. Welcome to McDonald's. How may I take your order? Yeah, do you have any No, we don't have double cheeseburgers, but we do have a shit burger and a piss burger. The shit burger is blue and the piss burger is red. Red or blue? Republican or Democrat? Which one do you want? Piss or shit? Piss or shit? Piss or shit? Neither, motherfucker. How about I go to Wendy's or something? Or we go home and cook our own meal. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Write my name in because I'm the best ever. I'm the most humble too. I even have a most humble award. Where is my most humble award? Oh, it's out on the front lawn. It's a huge, giant gold statue that says the most humble ever. Anyway. What else do we have here? Well, we had our ship designs. I'm just turning pages. We had our light speed, blah, 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 blah. I don't think anyone even cares, but oh, here's a design. Oh, I was going to show you the ball and socket, right? Because here is one of our propellers, which is connected to a ball and socket. We have our socket here and our ball, which then can, position this any way we want. And here, double propellers. We always want double because one spins one way and the other spins the other way inside of our housing. So that way it's balanced. So we don't need like a tail fin or a rudder like you have on your helicopters. Whoa, we're spinning out of control. How long has it been since we've been using this design and we haven't figured it out yet? Let's make really complicated things where we have to, not only do the propellers spin around in a circle, but they also go up and down a little bit, to pull us forward. with these complicated, when holy shit, we should just turn the whole propeller on side of a socket. Oh, wow, it's so much more simple. Holy shit. Shit on a shingle, that's freaking insane. How are we going to make the ball and socket? Well, simple. I'm glad you asked. Thanks for asking. You don't know anything. He doesn't know anything, guys. You need to study this and such and such. I have ideas for new ways. Oh, man. I had to open to this. Remember we were talking about the speaker box? See how everything's a little bit mixed up? Well, here's our speaker box, Let's finish that since we have it open to here, and we have our speaker box, right? And our ports, right, will blow air with one-way valves. So we could suck air on one side and blow it out the other with one-way valves. And these are vibrating. Or we can connect it then to, vacuum hoses, which then we can turn these vacuum hoses to cause them to go out any direction. So we could suck air on the side and blow it out this side or the front or the back or however we want with electronic valves, So say we want to go forward, just clicks our valves open, or we want to go up, then some of these open, and we go any direction. And that's kind of one of the designs for our little Zoomer ship here, which is really, we have 2 wings, double wings, rather than having one really long wing like we do on aircrafts. Okay, guys, we have to make the runway a mile wide for extra long wings. Well, let's just cut those wings in half and double stack them, because we're still going to have the same amount of lift because we have the same amount of surface area. Or we could just make many small wings all over the airship. Or we don't even need wings because we could just use propellers. But whatever, or we could put propellers in the wings. Why do you even have to shape the wings like you do for the lift? We need our special little shape here to give us lift. No, or you could just angle the wing, because I could even stick my arm out the window when I'm driving down the car and go, and it goes like this, I angle my hand up, it goes up, it goes down, it goes down. So we could just, instead of having flaps on the wings on the back with all these complicated, mechanics and little rods and pins and stuff and controls, just have the whole wing turn. Or if you want to put a flap, put it in the middle of the wing on just one, so it turns up and down, so that way it's below as much as it's above the wing. So here, what we have is 2 wings, and we have the engine in between. And the engine can also turn up and down. See how the space gives us space to, we have double engines here. These are our 8-tubed arc engines, and I don't really get into them yet, but in the center of our fuselage, we can have this is our speaker box. We have our arc here in the center as well. And these could be, each little arc spinning magnet can be connected to a propeller. This could be a propeller as well. And we could double stack them, triple stack them. We have one arc level, then we have another one. And then we can keep adding them, when these are spinning. So we can stack many small arcs inside this tube. This whole tube is filled with energy, then producing energy. But for this design, it's just saying that these could be propellers and just suck air through our vacuum hoses like that, or we can use our vibrating speaker box and have little vacuum hoses come out through different vents, so we can pull ourselves either sideways, we blow out here and suck in here, so we're pulling ourselves sideways, or we can pull ourselves forward and backward or up and down or whatever we want. And we can do that to land, and we can stay level at all times. We don't have to bank our ship, because of course our cockpit is made of a ball inside, hovering inside the fuselage, which then we can turn in any direction. So if we're flying this way and we want to, we have an enemy behind us, we could just turn our ball around and have our guns shoot out this way, as we're flying this way. Or we can turn our ball, shoot backwards, and then shift direction of our ship instantly and go the other direction without even having to turn. Or we could dance sideways and go around, as someone's flying at us, and we're like flying along their side, doing a donut around them, blast them to bits. You sure you want to mess with me? I'm ready to build some shit. Anyway, I want to help you build it, and then we can have our little war games. Really, when we receive eternal life and when we have our nano technologies, when we're able to put this inside of our cells, each cell becomes independent with its own energy and its own oxygen, and it can be numbered, and they know where to come together because they're programmed to come together. Our little cells come together, and we come into a body. We're a whole, or we can be separate because everything is independent. And then if each cell has eternal life, then when we're playing our games and shooting a laser and blowing chunks off of ourselves, really those chunks could just come back together. But we can simulate it so that way we can blow ourselves to bits, and then respawn back at base or whatever game you want to play. So we can have our little ships and we can have our games and we can have our guns and stuff in the future. But first we have to clean up the earth and the problems that we have now. We can become anything that we want to become. And where was I going to show you the ball and socket? Which was in this book that I threw on the ground. It's not having... You better hurry up and find me, world, because my stuff is starting to fall apart and get lost. I have to redraw it. I forget sometimes what I had. The ball and socket, ball and socket, ball and socket. Here we have the original one that I drew. We have here, get over here. Okay, so this just represents like a glass or crystal ball, and all these little points here represent little electromagnets that are numbered, which is really GPS. If we lived on a spinning ball, this is your spinning ball, and this is your locations, latitude and longitude, right? So numbered. So then our receiver knows how to read where we are. If it even really has to read, it doesn't necessarily even have to read. We just need something to make this magnetic to interact with our receiver, which can be, a clock, time, and position, and we just shoot our electrical current on this design. Where did it go? Pages are sticking together. So like this, right? We shoot our magnetic current, and that pulls the ball or causes it to turn. Now you just speed that up. So we can, with our controls, spin our cockpit. Or, as I was saying, our components for our ships, ball and socket, receiver. And this has its own energy. So we don't have to run wires. This can link up wireless, chip, Bluetooth to our ship, So even if we want to switch out, we have a problem with the part, then we could go switch it and just program the next one with our ship. Holy shit, that's easy. No rods, no pins, just a little ball and a socket. So simple. We could use this for a car, for our steering. It just interacts with the steering wheel wirelessly. Oh, yeah. And since we're speaking about the cars and electromagnetic suspension, which I talked about in one of my other videos, but let's go over it again on this one. This was one of my original ideas. I was just thinking, as I was playing with things. Even when I was a kid, I was doing this. I had magnets and I put them on the thing. I was like, oh, this is fun. Well, this is great. This is better suspension than, your springs and shocks that you have now. Because if we make our suspension electromagnet, not only we can adjust it, right? And it really won't wear out. The springs won't wear out. The shocks won't lose air. This magnetism's always here forever and ever and ever, But not only that, but then we can control the distance we can spread our car apart, our shocks apart, which will cause our car to, lean up on one side or the other as we're cornering. I want to go this way. So it gives me, counteracts what the G forces would want to do, because usually if I'm turning that way, then it's going to throw me this way. Well, we lift the car. So, and also, of course, our seat can have, a magnetic field to keep us pushed level. No seat belts. We're not using seat belts anymore. Instead of airbags, electromagnetic pulse if we hit anything. But we shouldn't hit anything if we have electromagnetic field around us of energy. Our whole car becomes a magnet and can bounce off of things or whatever. I mean, really, with good artificial intelligence, it should be impossible to run into anything. We'll have superior GPS because things are up in the sky, so we can be mapping everything, not only with our cars, but with the GPS, It should be very impossible for us to at least hit other people and other cars, because everything can have its own, GPS chip. So also, right, not only for steering, we have this, as we expand the outside, but when each one of our wheels is on its own energy source, each hub has its own energy. So we can cause the outside wheels to spin faster than the inside wheels. We kind of already have this, but in a very simplistic method, right? And that helps us with cornering as well. Okay. And at the same time, we can use this for launching this idea. right? When we go forward, when we take off, our car wants to go back, you know, and pop a wheelie. So we just expand the rear, which pushes us down as we take off and gives us more traction than equal. We really want equal traction. But I mean, we can adjust it for different kinds of driving. Maybe you want to slide your rear around. Maybe you want more energy in the rear than in the front. You know, we need to play with different things for different driving conditions. For water, you know, it might be wiser to have more torque in the front to pull ourselves. Really, I kind of like the whole front wheel drive method of driving because I pull myself out of the slide if I'm sliding. It's an opposite way of driving. You almost have to be dyslexic to, you know, to let off the brake and hit the gas when you're sliding. Who does that? Anyway, pull the e-brake. Yeah, who wants to race? I'm ready. But let's make a race car first. Okay, so same thing with braking, you know. So we want to expand the front. So now we're level. And we can even push down more in the back if you want. We can reverse everything. Reverse. This is the remix. I am whatever you say I am. If I wasn't, then why would you say I am? In the paper, the news every day I haven't been, but maybe I will be soon. Listen to me. I've listened and heard from the moon. I can rhyme sometimes, too. I'm a Jew. Are you? Anyway. Woosah. Let's, so we did our suspension. We have this method of propulsion. And then, you know, we can do things like make our cars fly because the wheels that are spinning can also have, the rims can become propellers, right? So we can just extend our wheels out and tilt down on our magnetic ball and sockets, and we can take off and fly away. We can cause our car to vibrate on our cones, of course, to lift up and hover, and then we can put our propellers out. I had another drawing for them. Oh yeah, it's just, you know, an illustration to say that we don't have to have our propellers flat, but this will cause us to sit in kind of a pocket, right? Because if they're flat like this, then we're kind of top heavy and little gusts of wind could blow us over. But if we're like this, we're kind of sitting inside of a pocket. It gives us we're more stable, but we also are going up. And then we could have our little arc engines or jets to pull us forward or backwards here. Plus these guys can turn. I feel like, you know, I've shared enough for this video. How long has it been? 1:56. All right, well, I guess that's all for now. Shalom. Namaste. I don't know. What do we say? See you later. Peace. Goodbye. One. Or we could do what the Pentecostals do. Speaking in tongues, bitch. All right. Yeah, don't forget to bow down. Bow down, bitch. Anyway, I am the Lord. Who says that? Just the Lord does. Anyway. All right, peace. Kiss my feet, Rothschild.